Hello. Today I wanted to go over the problems with no education. With no education, you're basically stuck with really low paying jobs. And we could see that in our Hispanic communities. I don't know about your parents, I know about mine. My mom works 8 hours a day the whole week. Every 2 weeks, she only gets $500 for a really grueling work. And what happens is that once she gets that money and she spends it within just a few hours just paying bills and debt, she has zero money. We see that a lot. With field workers too, as soon as they get the money is gone. But they could have, and when you have lower paying jobs, you have less expenses. But people want to have fun, they want to buy beer, they want to buy alcohol, they want to barbecue to watch the soccer game. And so it's a greater problem when you don't have no education. And there's even greater problems with no education. Problems that we don't even realize that are really major problems, not just for a reputation, but for a state in general. California is responsible for paying the welfare, the food stamps, and it's also responsible for paying prisons. There's a statistic that when it comes to graduating from 4-year universities, for every 2 African Americans and Hispanics, there are 12 whites graduating from a 4-year university. However, when it comes to prisons, there are 8 African American and Hispanics for every 2. It's a horrible 2. For every 2 whites, there are 8 African American and Hispanics in prisons. For every 2 African American and Hispanics, there are 12 whites graduating from a university. It's a staggering difference, and that's all part of not having an education. We could say to yourself, well, how could we fix this problem? In order to fix a problem, you have to know what the problem is. So, with no education comes greater problems. The state has to fund us. They have to fund us. We're dependent on the state. We're not free. We are dependent on them to give us money. I want to show people how to be wealthy. I want to lead them in the right direction the most of anything. I want to show them that they can be wealthy. They don't have to be dependent on the state to give them money. They could be financially free from anything, because what happens in my case, my parents have to pay a mortgage. You could call it a rent. They also have some credit cards they need to pay. And they also have some cars to pay. So you could see how with no education you become basically a slave, because if you owe money to these types of things, you're not getting wealthy. And if you're even in a poorer condition, you have to rely on the state for money. When you become an owner of these things, I'm not saying don't get them. I'm saying that if you don't have the discipline or the right intelligence to pay these off, you're going to be a slave all your life depending on a paycheck, to basically pay for all of these, and your wealth is just gone. You have no wealth. You don't have any money to save up for a retirement because you have to suffer through all of these, and you can't be dependent on the state. So you see why I want to advocate the importance of having an education. It's called investing in your learning. When you invest in your learning, you give up something now for a greater good learning. For a greater good later. And this is really what I want to inspire all of you. The money will come if you invest in your learning. The thing that will make you the most money is your intelligence, not somebody you hire to do it for you. When you invest in your intelligence, let's say you take a class on real estate, on how to sell and get rich off real estate. If the class costs $5,000 for the seminar, if it costs $5,000, you'll think it's such a pain. But with what you learn from taking the real estate seminar, and it makes you $32,000, it doesn't seem that bad now, does it? So you could see, you put up something now for a greater good later. And you'd be able to keep on doing this, getting more money, buying more property. Personally, I am planning on buying my own apartment in the future. Why? Because there's so much cash flow, and I'll talk about cash flow later on, for those of you who might not understand it yet. So really, it's called investing in learning. If you want to know something, you have to go out and find it, because you can't just depend to learning all of it in high school. In high school, they have 3 types of learnings: academic, professional, there's also financial. When it comes to school, they'll highlight these 2. Academic, professional. Academic is what we learn. We learn how to read, write, math. Professional is actually what you get from graduating from somewhere. You get to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. Schools highlight both of these, academic and professional. When it comes to financial, they say save up. Well, how do you save up? You could see how the school system preps us for a disaster. Because as soon as we get a professional job, we're making more money, but since we didn't have the financial education, our wealth goes down. Goes into cars, mortgages. Your money is going nowhere. You're still becoming a slave to paying off credit cards. You're paying off car insurance, car loans, bank money. So basically, it could still be the same situation with the field worker. As soon as you get it, it's gone because it belongs to the banks. It belongs to the credit card companies. It's the same thing even though you have more money. And that's the basis of investing in your education. That's why I want you guys to read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I don't want you to be a slave to any company. I want you to gain financial freedom. As sad as it is, it's the most of our community is right here. They're a slave to paying these companies. We don't have anything saved up. I have more money saved than my parents do. I'll go more into that later. So basically, would you rather be a slave or gain financial freedom? It'll take time. You don't become rich overnight. You have to properly invest in your education if you want to gain freedom. from anything. So that's that. Go ahead and reach Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'll be posting a video on what cash flow and assets and liabilities are, to give a more proper definition of what they are. Think about this. Think about our Hispanic community. Think about how all these problems are related. Why politicians won't pay much attention to us. They only want our vote. They won't necessarily do anything for us. Think about how it's all connected. Think about how you could be an example for others. Think about investing in your education, getting smarter, rather than becoming a slave to everyone else.